What is up, guys? I am Howie, and this is the Go Ride channel, where I publish motorcycle videos every week about all different kinds of bikes. It's super sport, it's street, it's dirt, it's enduro, it's adventure, all different kinds of stuff. I don't really discriminate, except I'm not a huge cruiser person. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to get more content like this, please subscribe and turn on your notifications. I would appreciate it. Talking today about the 749 as a starter bike. Is the Ducati 749 a good starter motorcycle? And most of what I'm saying is going to be tailored to the US market, just because that's what I'm familiar with. There are a lot of other bikes that are offered overseas that I'm just candidly not aware of, which may warrant discussion in a video like this that I just don't know anything about. And so to discuss the Ducati 749 as a starter bike, I think you have to kind of define what a good starter bike is. And I think a good starter bike is first and foremost a bike that won't kill you right away. So your H2 is pretty much out. A good starter bike is one that's easy to learn the fundamentals of riding on. It should go and stop and turn pretty much, when it's told to. The second important category is cost of purchase, initial purchase. I think that most good beginner bikes, at least in the San Francisco Bay Area, command anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. I feel like $2,000 is kind of the bottom of where you can purchase a reliable motorcycle around here, and then $5,000 is kind of about the limit of what you would want to spend on a bike that you may very well just thrash or total. So that's kind of point number two. And point number three is just kind of general overall ease and cost of ownership. And let's see how kind of the Ducati, and that's just totally just my take, but let's see how the Ducati stacks up in each of those fields. So number one, I will qualify this as far as bikes with over 100 horsepower go. I would not generally recommend bikes with over 100 horsepower as a first street bike for anybody. I would think that generally you're going to want to limit that to, I would even make a good case for 50. I don't think you should really go much past 50. But that's a whole nother discussion. So the 749, I feel like, as far as bikes with over 100 horsepower goes, is not that bad of a starter bike, and here's why. It's because the Ducati is a twin, and so it's got almost twice the torque of a 600 of the same year. And what that means is at a stoplight, or taking off from a stop, with the Ducati you can kind of crack the throttle, engage the clutch into the friction zone, gently compensate with throttle, let the clutch out the rest of the way, and be on your way. And not a big deal. Whereas on an R6, like I've ridden an 08 R6, was like my most recent R6 ride, you crack the throttle just a hair, the RPMs jump up to like 10,000 RPM, you engage the clutch into the friction zone just slightly, and they dive way down, and then you have to compensate with the throttle, and then the throttle wants to wind the bike way up again. And so it's kind of a balancing act that I feel like is a little bit difficult for most people that are just getting used to not, being in a car or operating a vehicle on a street for the first time, if that's what you're doing. So I would advise definitely stay away from the 600, but try to, limit the amount of power that you have. As far as stopping and turning and all that kind of stuff, Ducati does a great job of that. They handle amazingly well. In my opinion, much better than a Japanese bike of the same era, which I feel like is what you really buy a Ducati for. It's looks and then the handling. So Ducati checks all those boxes. Obviously, you've got a really aggressive riding style on a 749. Your hands are really low, your feet are really high, your center of gravity is really high. You feel everything. The seat is very thin. It's not particularly comfortable, but if we're talking about sport bikes, I think you're in for that regardless. If you don't want that, then go find a video about whether a Monster is a good starter bike. Category number two, initial purchase price. So what are you looking at in that budget that I kind of laid out in the beginning of the video, $2,000 to $5,000 for Ducatis? You can find a 749. To start to see good examples, you're looking at $4,500 right now. And this is 2018. You're looking at about $4,500 to get a bike with some kind of maintenance history, with some kind of care taken of it. It might be a higher mileage example, but generally okay bike. you're looking at $4,500. I know of one on Craigslist right now for $3,800. It looks thrashed, and occasionally you'll see other ones even cheaper than that. I've seen them as low as $2,500, but they are destroyed. And the price of parts is something we're going to talk about soon. Let's talk about some other offerings in that price range. You've got brand new Ninja 300s. You've got brand new Ninja 400s. You've got the RC 390. You've got the Duke 390 is kind of, more of a monster twin. You've got the R3. You've got this CBR 300, CBR 500. All kind of right clustered in where you would find the 749. And those bikes are going to be either new or very gently used in that price range. Or if you want to get down even below the $3,000 mark, you can find those bikes, with a few miles on them, or commuters or something like that. There are a lot of other offerings that are probably better suited to beginners in that price range. But so Ducati's kind of mediocre in that respect. Whether you can find them in the beginner type price range. Which brings me to my third point. So at this point you're thinking, okay, I might be able to start on a Ducati. I got big balls. I got a big wiener. I could ride a Ducati. I think they're pretty. All that kind of crap. Well, if that's what you're thinking, you better be one damn good mechanic. That's why. If you're thinking you want a Ducati, you better be a damn good mechanic. Because where these things fall apart is in cost of ownership and ease of use. The Ducati is a pain in the ass to maintain. It costs a lot to maintain, and parts are expensive. So picture this scenario. You're riding along, happy little beginner, and all of a sudden you bite off more than you can chew. You lean like a crazy son of a bitch, and you low side your bike, right? It happens. I've done it. I've effed up. I admit it. My fault, not anybody else's fault, not gravel on the road. I effed up. Everybody effs up. There are two kinds of riders, those that will go down and those that have been down. Maybe a third type, maybe those that are going down again. But with respect to all of that, let's lay down that scenario, right? On a 749, let's say you get off pretty easy like I did, and all you do is break 4 ribs, your wife doesn't take your keys, and you march your happy butt into the Ducati dealer to get the shift lever that you broke, the only part on the bike that you broke besides the fairings, which you can fix yourself. Shift lever. I need a shift lever, guys. One shift lever, please. And they say $225, please. And that's when you start wondering why the hell you got a Ducati. Parts are really expensive on Ducks, and that's one of the things you kind of got to consider as far as the first bike goes, is whether the replacement parts that you're going to break are inexpensive and whether they're available. So with most Japanese bikes, you can pretty much go to Chaparral Racing or Rocky Mountain ATV, whatever, and get an OEM part in 2 or 3 days. If you have a Ducati, there are times of the year where the Ducati factory is shut down completely, and you go to order that part and it's over 2 weeks out and it comes airmail. So parts availability not so great, and parts pricing is expensive. The other thing too is the cost of maintenance. Ducatis cost a lot to maintain. The first Desmo service I had on this bike cost me upwards of $1,500. And granted, I did have them do some oil leaks at the same time. It cost me over $1,500, and this bike is by no means a solid, reliable bike at this point. I'm constantly messing with it. It's stalling at every freaking stoplight, and I think it's because it's running too rich. This bike is a nightmare to keep going, and that's not what you want to do when you get your first bike. You don't want to have, something that breaks your heart in your garage every freaking day. You want something that, with minimal planning, you can strap on all your safety gear, right, guys? Strap on all your safety gear, call your friends, because buddy system, and go out for a little ride, put 75, 80, 100 miles on your bike, top it up with gas at the end of the day, and then do that, 50 times, change your oil, and do it 50 more. Ducati is not like that, and I think that's what most people really want in a first bike, is they want something they can go out and enjoy. They can go ride with their friends and learn to be a better rider on, and you're not going to be doing that if you're waiting 3 months to get a Desmo service at the dealer. So with that, guys, hopefully you found this interesting. Again, please like and subscribe if you're interested, and get out there, go ride. What the does that license plate even mean? Frame even mean? Goat plus button. I was totally distracted by that license plate frame. Okay, so